This is Ali Abulaban, known to his hundreds of thousands of TikTok followers as Jin Kid, who's standing trial for the brutal murder of his estranged wife Anna and her friend Rayburn Barron in San Diego, California. The 32-year-old TikTok star had gained internet fame for his spot-on Scarface impressions and comedy skits.
You wanna fuck with me? Okay. God, okay. Do you wanna play this? Okay. I play with you. Do you wanna play off? Okay. Where the fuck is my gun? Gina! Where the fuck?
But his online persona would soon become prophetic. On October 21st, 2021, Abulaban used a spy app to track his wife to her downtown apartment, where he shot both victims execution style. During his trial, Abulaban admitted to the killings, but claimed it was a crime of passion during a drug-induced psychosis because he believed Anna was cheating on him with Rayburn. However, the prosecution painted a very different picture, a controlling, possessive man who previously abused his wife and couldn't accept their separation.
Because I was sick, I was struggling from drugs and mental illness, and I up a lot, but I was trying to fix this. And before I could stop myself, I just snapped. My gun was in my hand, and next thing I'm shooting, and I can't stop. I'm just shooting, and
During victim impact statements, Anna's sister screamed directly at Abulaban, offering the jury a first glimpse into how he really felt about what he had just done.
What did it do to you? It didn't do anything to you. You know Anna Marie's not gonna go cheat if you didn't cheat first.
But it was the sentencing hearing that would provide the most dramatic courtroom moments. As Judge Jeffrey Frazier prepared to deliver his verdict, Abulaban's demeanor completely shifted when he realized the judge would show him no mercy.
He's a very selfish person, as I think the jury saw. That was something that his character kind of came through, and we asked, who is Ali Abulaban? That's who he is. He's somebody that is only thinking about himself.
Then came the moment that would define Abulaban's fate. As the words sank in, life without parole, 2 consecutive 25-year sentences. Abulaban's composure crumbled, and the entire courtroom realized they were dealing with a remorseless man all along.
So the bottom line here is he will die in prison. He will never be a free man. He will take his last breath there.
The prosecution's final statement was devastating.
Any tears he has cried in this courtroom have been for himself. They are not for Ray and Anna.
From viral TikTok star to life imprisonment, Ali Abulaban's dramatic fall shows how quickly internet fame can turn into courtroom infamy. But now how does that compare to a TikTok influencer who tortured her own children for views? This is Ruby Frank, the once beloved YouTube mom blogger behind the 8 Passengers channel, who's about to learn her fate for systematically torturing her own children while millions of subscribers watch their seemingly perfect family life. At 42 years old, Ruby built a YouTube empire documenting her family's daily life, attracting millions of views with her parenting advice and Mormon family values.
Julie wants to sing a song. You guys have been listening to the soundtrack for all day.
Yes.
Okay, stand up nice and straight and give it your best.
But behind the camera, a horrific reality was unfolding.
I think you're torturing him. Stop it. I know you're not, but it looks like you are. Okay, Russell.
The abuse was discovered when Frankie's 12-year-old son Russell escaped through a window and knocked on a neighbor's door asking for help. Russell was emaciated and his ankles wrapped in bloody duct tape. A 911 call followed shortly after.
And we know there's been problems at this neighbor's house. He's emaciated, he's got tape around his legs, he's hungry, and he's thirsty.
When authorities arrived, they wasted no time and transported the boy to the nearest hospital.
How did you get the ropes on you? Who did them? You're not in trouble with me, okay? We're just trying to figure out what's going on.
Police then found his 9-year-old sister, Eve, sitting cross-legged in a dark closet with her hair buzzed off.
I'm a police officer. Are you going for the union here? Hey, you okay? Is this just you in here? I'm Sergeant Tobler. What's your name? I just have one.
February 20th, 2024. The sentencing in St. George, Utah. Courtrooms packed with media and family members. As Judge John Walton prepared to deliver the sentence, Frank sat stone-faced, but that composure wouldn't last. The judge's words were devastating.
In this case, you terrorized children, and the results have been tragic.
As he detailed the torture, binding children with duct tape, forcing them to work in extreme heat without water, treating wounds with cayenne pepper and honey, Frank began to break down. She pleaded with her children for forgiveness.
I can see now, over the past 4 years, I was in a deep undercurrent that led us to danger. I never ventured to darkness knowingly. I was so disoriented.
But then came the moment that broke her completely. Ruby Frank was given the maximum sentence for child abuse in the state of Utah, and she'll likely spend the rest of her days behind bars. Prosecutor Eric Clark called it one of the worst child abuse cases his office had ever seen, adding,
"The physical torture and emotional damage these children have endured is incomprehensible."
Ruby's fall shows how the pursuit of online fame can destroy the very thing it claims to celebrate. But now how does that compare to a TikTok star whose deadly street racing made him a viral sensation for all the wrong reasons? This is Cameron Herron, a 21-year-old TikTok star with over 2 million followers, who's about to receive his sentence for killing a mother and her baby daughter while street racing through Tampa, Florida. On May 23, 2018, the then 18-year-old was racing his Ford Mustang at over 100 miles an hour when he slammed into 24-year-old Jessica Reisinger Rubinault, who was pushing her 20-month-old daughter, Lilia, in a stroller. Both mother and child died from their injuries. Now, what makes this case unique wasn't this horrific tragedy, but what happened next. Herron's courtroom appearances quickly went viral on TikTok, with millions claiming he was too cute for prison and demanding his release. At his April 2021 sentencing in Tampa, the courtroom was packed with both victims' families and curious onlookers. Herron, wearing a black mask, sat nervously as Judge Christopher Nash prepared to deliver his fate. The first impact statement came from David Rubinault, Jessica's heartbroken husband.
How dare you think you're worthy of stalling justice or attempting to acquire a lower sentence? It is critical for you to understand that you've created everlasting pain and depths of sorrow. Because of your existence, 2 beautiful, innocent lives were denied a full life. Your actions terrorize me and haunt me to this day. I had to carry their ashes in a box.
The judge was careful in assessing the case.
The court did take into account that the defendant's 18, certainly responsible for his actions, and he's being held accountable for his actions. The court is going really toward the middle between the minimum under the guidelines and the maximum punishment permitted under Florida State.
Finally, he delivers the first crushing blow.
So on count 1, vehicular homicide, the court's going to adjudicate the defendant guilty, sentence him to 9 years in Florida State prison.
For a moment, Cameron thought he got off easy, but once the rest of that verdict started being read out loud, the look on his face was that of a boy who's just now realizing he'll spend way more than 2 decades behind bars.
On count 2, same charge, court will adjudicate the defendant guilty, sentence him to 15 years Florida State prison, and that'll run consecutive to count 1, for a total 24 years Florida State prison.
As deputies moved to escort him away, Herron's visibly shocked, a moment that TikTok users would edit into millions of thirst videos with romantic music. The irony was staggering. Herron's emotional courtroom reaction made him even more famous on the very platform where he'd built his following. Nearly 30,000 people signed a Change.org petition calling his sentence worse than death. From TikTok heartthrob to convicted killer, Cameron Herron's case shows how social media fame can become a double-edged sword. But the next entry on this list seems to prefer it that way. This is Jamel Demons, better known to his millions of fans as rapper YNW Melly, who's facing a potential death sentence for the brutal double murder of his 2 childhood friends in Broward County, Florida. The 25-year-old skyrocketed to fame with hits like Murder on My Mind and collaborations with Kanye West. But his lyrics about violence weren't just a front. In October 2018, Demons allegedly shot his friends, Anthony YNW Sackchaser Williams and Christopher YNW Juvie Thomas Jr. inside a Jeep, then staged a fake drive-by shooting. The proceedings were live-streamed as Melly sat in his navy blue suit, looking far more mature than when he was first arrested at 19. But it would be during the prosecution's presentation of the evidence that Melly's composure completely cracked.
A young man to wake up one day and decide that he's going to kill 2 of his best friends. Best friends that he grew up with, best friends that he hangs out with, best friends who he lives with, best friends whose careers he was trying to launch alongside his own. They have no reason for why he would do this, because there is no reason.
Graphic hospital footage of his deceased friends played on courtroom screens, and Jamel looked visibly shaken. At one point, he even appears to be wiping away his tears. After 3 days of deliberation and 14 hours of jury discussions, the unthinkable happened. A hung jury. The case ends in a mistrial on July 22, 2023, with jurors split 9-3 in favor of conviction on lesser manslaughter charges. Melly's reaction to the mistrial was one of visible relief, but his freedom was short-lived. He remains in custody, awaiting retrial, now scheduled for September 2025, and still facing a potential death penalty. Now, not everybody's capable of remorse, and the next entry on this list proves just that. This is Kelsey Turner, better known to her tens of thousands of TikTok followers as Bad Barbie, who's about to be sentenced for the brutal murder of the 71-year-old psychiatrist who bankrolled her lavish lifestyle. The 29-year-old has built her brand as a glamorous Instagram and TikTok influencer and Playboy model, flaunting designer outfits and expensive vacations. But behind all this was a dark dependency on Dr. Thomas Burchard, a Californian child psychiatrist who became obsessed with her. For months, the doctor had paid her rent, bought her cars, and funded her lifestyle to the tune of over $300,000. But when this elderly doctor decided he could no longer be her golden goose, Turner's world started to collapse. On March 1st, 2019, Burchard made a surprise visit to the Las Vegas home he was paying for. What he found would seal his fate. Turner was living there with her boyfriend, John Kennison, and tensions exploded when Turner discovered text messages between Burchard and her mother discussing taking away her children. The confrontation turned violent. Turner's roommate, Diana Pena, witnessed Kennison attacking Burchard with a baseball bat, while Turner encouraged the violence.
It's just like real terror. And then I just kind of went numb. So I just turned around and started washing dishes because that was the only thing I could do to calm down.
4 days later, the doctor's battered body was found stuffed in the trunk of Turner's Mercedes in the Nevada desert. The man who tried helping a struggling single mother was dead, beaten beyond recognition. At the pretrial, Kelsey seemed completely unbothered by the gravity of the situation.
Ms. Kennison, how do you plead to those 2 charges? Ms. Turner, I apologize.
On January 11th, 2023, Turner sat in a Nevada courtroom for her sentencing. The glamorous photos and designer outfits were now gone, replaced by prison garb and handcuffs. As Judge Tiara Jones prepares to deliver the sentence, Turner's composure began to crumble. Now, Turner had taken an Alford plea, allowing her to maintain her innocence while acknowledging the evidence against her. But as the reality of her situation hits, CBS reporter Carolyn Bleakley captured the moment Turner accepted her sentence through tears as Judge Jones delivers the crushing blow, 10 to 25 years in Nevada State Prison. Burchard's girlfriend, Judy Earp, delivered a devastating victim impact statement.
Dear Judge Kearney, prior to March 3rd, 2019, I would never have imagined having to make this statement. My entire world was viciously ripped from me with the murder of Thomas K. Burchard, my fiancé and long-term partner. Since that time, I have suffered unimaginable grief and loss, which has taken its toll on me physically, emotionally, and financially. I was the first to know that something was seriously wrong when he did not get off the plane he was scheduled to fly home on. My immediate thought was to check with his office. I knew that no matter what, he would not just leave his patients without making arrangements, such as canceling and rescheduling appointments and making sure their medications were refilled, etc. I went to his office to check if he had contacted them, and when I found out he had not contacted them, I knew beyond doubt something was very wrong. I immediately went home and called the Las Vegas Metro Police and reported him missing and requested a welfare check at Kelsey Turner's residence. The man answering the door, later identified as John Kinnison, said that they had never heard of him. I relive that day in my mind every day and frequently in my dreams, and it will never go away. I will always wonder if there was something I could have done to prevent Tom from going to Las Vegas to see Kelsey Turner. Tom was under a lot of stress, and I sincerely believe he was in the early stages of Alzheimer's or some other form of dementia. So much so that 2 county social workers had come to the house that week prior, inquiring if he was showing any signs of dementia. I told them how Kelsey Turner was manufacturing checks on Tom's LLC account and forging his signature. I highly suspect Wells Fargo was who reported the situation to Senior Social Services. When Tom had told her repeatedly he would not give or loan her any more money, she resorted to stealing. She printed on her home computer checks with Tom's name and account number and her address. She also went online and made many charges paying her bills. The bank caught the fraud and immediately took action. When that did not work, she began extortion. She told him that she would accuse him of having child pornography. She even texted me a pornographic photo saying that it was a 10-year-old child. I showed that text and photo to 2 different police and a doctor, and they all told me it was not a 10-year-old child. It was just some random picture off the internet. You can imagine what kind of mental torture that was for him. Just the thought of such allegations would end his lifelong career. I believe this mental torture precipitated a rapid decline in his judgment. She lured him to Las Vegas with some story about how she was sick and couldn't take care of her child and had no money for food or medicine, etc. His last words to me were, "She's such a pervasive liar that I had to see for myself." I am telling you this so that the court understands that not only was Tom physically and painfully tortured and murdered by Kelsey Turner and John Kinnison on March 3rd, 2019, but that Kelsey Turner had been mentally torturing him for quite some time before this. A day does not pass that I am not reminded of Tom and how horribly and painfully he suffered in his final hours on earth at the hands of John Kinnison and Kelsey Turner. I frequently dream that Tom has come home and it was all a big mistake. Then I realize that the real nightmare is waking up and knowing that he will never come home.
Earp had also accused Turner of forging Burchard's signature and stealing hundreds of thousands more.
His last words to me were, She's such a pervasive liar that I had to see for myself.
Kelsey Turner's fall from grace proves that behind the perfect social media facade can lurk the darkest of intentions. Her earliest possible parole date isn't until 2029, when she'll be 36 years old, a far cry from the glamorous life she once knew. And speaking of a glamorous life, this mother-daughter TikTok duo seemed to have it all until they decided to throw it all away. This is Mahek Bakari, a 24-year-old TikTok influencer with over 120,000 followers who's standing trial alongside her mother for the brutal double murder of 2 young men in Leicester, England. Bakari had built her online empire sharing makeup tutorials, fashion content, and dancing videos alongside her mother, Ansreen. One video was even captioned, "When you have an elite relationship with your mom." It turns out her mother had a secret affair with 21-year-old Saqib Hussein, and it turned sour when Hussein threatened to expose their relationship with explicit photos and videos, demanding £3,000 to stay quiet. Mahek had another idea. She tells her mother not to worry, that she's going to get some guys to jump Saqib Hussein, and he wouldn't know what hit him. What followed was a carefully orchestrated murder plot. On February 11th, 2022, the mother-daughter duo lured Hussein and his friend, Mohammed Hashim Ijazuddin, to a Tesco car park, promising to pay back the money. But 8 people were waiting, some wearing balaclavas, and at least one had a weapon. When the victims realized it was a trap, they fled to their Skoda, and a chase began. Racing at speeds of up to 100 miles an hour, the pursuers forced the victim's car off the A46 dual carriageway. During the terrifying final moments, Hussein makes a desperate 999 call. That's UK's emergency number.
"I'm being followed by 2 cars. They're trying to block me. They're trying to ram us. They're trying to force us off the road."
The Skoda splits in 2 and bursts into flames after hitting a tree, killing both men instantly. At Leicester Crown Court, the verdict was clear: guilty of murder for both mother and daughter. But it was Judge Timothy Spencer's sentencing that delivered the final crushing blow. Wiping away tears in the dock, Mahek heard her fate: life imprisonment with a minimum term of 31 years and 8 months. Her mother got 26 years and 9 months. Judge Spencer was brutal in his assessment.
"You are oblivious to the damage you do. Your fame through your career as an influencer has made you utterly self-obsessed with a wholly unjustified sense of entitlement."
He then continued,
"TikTok and Instagram lie at the heart of this case. That's why you dropped out of university. Had you not done so, you would now be a young graduate with your whole life ahead of you. Now you constrain yourself to prison for all your best years."
The prosecution's final words were damning.
"This was a planned, cold-blooded killing, conceived and executed for entirely selfish motives. Rather than face up to the consequences of her affair, Ansreen Bakari turned to her daughter and put together this conceited plan to silence Mr. Hussein."
Mahek Bakari received a total of more than 160 years.